people that might be coming in later from other cities, municipalities. So we'll welcome them. They're more than welcome to come in a little bit later as they come in. But we'll go ahead and start at least with some intros for the panelists today, for the people that you'll be asking questions. I'll go ahead and start things off. Like I said, this is a clean city, so hopefully some of you guys know of clean cities already. But my name is Diego Lopez. I'm the executive director of Northern Colorado Clean Cities. So we are here in Fort Collins, but there are more than 90 coalitions throughout the United States helping local actions. And our main mission is to help cities, communities, businesses, and fleets adopt alternative fuel vehicles. So we feel that renewable natural gas is obviously going to be a great stepping stone when it comes to transitioning to zero emission, which Colorado is. So we're excited to learn more about RNG, about what a facility looks like today, and then maybe get some more questions answered. So today as well, on our other two panelists that we have here, John Gage from the city of Longmont. He's the civil engineer with Public Works. John, why don't you give a quick intro and maybe a quick experience that you have with the city of Longmont.
Yeah, happy to, Diego. So like you said, my name is John Gage. I'm in our environmental services division with the city. It's underneath Public Works and Natural Resources, and so our environmental services group really acts as kind of a technical resource as well as a regulatory compliance arm for the city regarding environmental concerns. So what that looks like practically is honestly a lot of work with our drinking water and wastewater facilities on compliance there, but we also natural resources and other types of divisions within the city. So I've been with the city for 4 to 5 years now, and have typically done a lot of projects at our treatment plants. But this renewable natural gas project kind of rolled across my desk a few years ago, which is when we started a feasibility study for what to do with biogas. And so it's been a nice little journey of doing kind of biogas feasibility all the way through construction. And construction isn't necessarily construction management isn't really part of my job under environmental services, but I had the fortunate opportunity of taking this one all the way through completion, which was great. So typically that's handled by our engineering division, the CIP kind of construction management. But yeah, this one was a great start to finish project, and excited to share it with you guys.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I'm sure if people have questions later on, we'll definitely give you questions. But that is fantastic. Thank you so much for that intro, and I think that's great. We'll learn a lot of great information from your experience. Next, CGRS. We have Cory Kahler here, alternative fuels expert and engineers extraordinaire. Cory, why don't you also give a brief background and intro to your experience?
So thanks, Diego. My name is Cory Kahler. I've been with CGRS for 5 years now. When I started with CGRS, I came in as a CNG expert to assist with construction and design for CNG facilities, as CGRS was starting to get into them. When I started, they'd actually done some previous work on some CNG stations and brought me in for my knowledge. In that time, we've helped design, build multiple CNG fueling facilities for municipalities, as well as maintain municipality systems and privately owned systems throughout the state of Colorado and Wyoming. I was lucky enough to be involved in the Longmont design build team, and did field operations managing for all of the RNG and CNG systems as it was being constructed, as well as the commissioning for the site. we've got some pretty other exciting projects going as well in the RNG field, and I've kind of transitioned from just doing CNG to working with the RNG and the waste services wastewater treatment plant division, and still play a heavy role in CNG and RNG infrastructure within the company.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. We're glad to have you. That's fantastic news that City of Longmont is a pioneer, but you're also working with other entities. And I might actually I know we're saving our questions typically after our video, but maybe just a brief description on what you're doing for the City of Boulder and maybe how that differs with the City of Longmont project. I know you also are doing an RNG project there. What's going on in there, and what was maybe the difference between the Longmont project?
So it's similar in that the gas is being collected from a anaerobic digester at the wastewater treatment plant. I would say one of the main differences there is they're doing pipeline injection direct into the utility pipeline, rather than Longmont actually utilizes that RNG on their site to fuel their refuse trucks. They chose to go that route and benefit directly from the RNG versus putting it into a pipeline. So other than that, the systems are pretty similar.
Excellent. And maybe a follow-up question as well. I'll ask maybe 2 or 3 questions before we get into the video and we can get commentary, but what started what initiated the City of Boulder and the City of Longmont? And maybe John, you can also speak towards this, but what was the similarities then? Did both have some type of environmental goal that they were trying to hit, or what really was the key to them looking at this as a viable option?
Yeah, I can start just from our end. I think a number, just as a talking broadly about RNG across Colorado, it is really interesting to see the number of renewable natural gas projects that have kind of been completed within the past year. We're looking at South Platte Renew, which is Littleton Inglewood's wastewater plant, is just wrapped up about the same time as we wrapped up our project doing a pipeline injection. You have the City of Boulder and you have us. And I think primarily what you see is organizations having maybe more formal sustainability plans and greenhouse gas reduction goals and kind of targets. So that's one driver. I think another driver, right, is the financial components. When you talk about sustainability, you're looking at environmental, social, and economic considerations. And for a long time, gas projects haven't really panned out from a financial component, mainly because biogas used to be used for electricity generation. And here, electric rates are just so cheap. So there was really never a great payback. And so what you, I think, saw back in kind of when we were looking at design 2017, really the renewable fuel standard, EPA's renewable fuel standard, which offers RIN credits, had some really high RIN value, which kind of drove some economics when you look at a payback perspective that were pretty enticing. And so I think all 3 facilities, Boulder, South Platte Renew, and us, kind of saw those RIN projections, and you pair that with sustainability markers, and then you see state incentives as maybe a backer and a potential fallback for a renewable fuel standard concern. It really drove those projects forward, and that's kind of the conversation we had internally, which was, wow, this really fits with our sustainability goals, but is there a viable financial compensation mechanism?
And just so that people are not daunted by that entire process, the RINs, that process, what was your experience like with that? And how do you think that we can help support that in Colorado and across the country?
Man, that's a great question, Diego. And really, it seems a lot more complicated up front than
That's
it.
what a lot of fleets are saying. It seems like a daunting process.
Yeah, and you can make it as easy or self-performing as you want. A lot of entities will elect to go with what's called a RIN broker, and so you're pretty much hands off at that point. You give them some of your operating data, and then they'll do all the work, the legwork on the EPA side to generate your RINs and find a buyer and sell your RIN credits. And they do take a nice little percentage off the top in terms of the RIN value, and so you just have to weigh that as a utility and whether or not that's an acceptable cost, and so it is also something to consider when you're looking at payback too. But on our side, we thought, wow, this doesn't seem too complicated. And so there's the EPA registration of your system, which is pretty it's just really a review of your drawings and then kind of a site walk of your equipment and infrastructure, and after that, it's pretty easy. And so since we're a closed loop system, we use our own fuel. We self-generate we can generate a full RIN credit. So the RIN credit has to be a renewable fuel that's used for transportation purposes, and we do both of that. And so we can generate the full RIN, and we've done that ourselves, and we have some SOPs related to how to do that, and we have a business services team that can just take over that effort for us. So happy to talk in more detail about that. Again, in my mind, it's really not a super complicated system, but just like in any industry, there's tons of acronyms that make it sound really intimidating and confusing. But in reality, it's a simple, in my mind, a simple market that you can understand. Happy to educate or help educate anybody that would be interested in knowing more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll have time for questions for panelists. So hopefully they'll have some questions on RINs. But that is actually a big barrier that Northern Colorado and I'm sure other Clean Cities coalitions find is that entire process, really making it more manageable and accessible. And I think that's probably a benefit of Clean Cities is that we can connect you with these different fleets that have this confidence in RINs. So that's really fantastic that you guys just went for it. You guys were able to gauge, did it work for you and have it implemented into your system. So that's fantastic. So Cory, back to, boulders, last question, and then we'll go to the really great video. Did you see the same types of, pain points, I guess, so to speak, or incentives that Boulder saw to adopting RNG?
We did. Boulder was ahead of the game, just like Longmont was. Boulder had done their research and had to weigh, their cost versus benefit and their ROI on the system, as well as the sustainability factor for it. Boulder just didn't have the fleet to utilize those RINs themselves. That's why they did choose to go into the pipeline. But it was a lot of the same challenges going through the RINs broker. Boulder handled all of that on their own, the commissioning, the inspection and everything with all of that. So it was pretty similar. It's just the different outcomes of the system, I guess. What are they actually looking for? What do they want the system to do? How do they want it to perform that best suits the city or the municipality?
Right. What best suits the needs of the community is really key. I'm sure I'm speaking just for Northern Colorado, but again, just like in other states, other coalitions are probably going to be doing the same things or looking for the same things. So that's fantastic. To see pioneers in our region going on and adopting these fuels. We hope that inspires others and gives others confidence. So, we here at Clean Cities, we love to do experiential type of learning. We feel that just having just maybe a, a press release, on this RNG project would be good. But would be great is if you actually were able to go to the facility yourself and maybe get some behind the scenes ideas on what it took to develop a facility like Longmont. So unfortunately, we have COVID, so it's limiting us to do an actual tour, an experiential tour. But the second best thing is a video. So we do have here a great video. Thank you so much, CGRS, for helping us get this video and creating this video. You guys are awesome. So I'll go ahead and start this video. And John and Cory, stop me if you want to make any commentary about specifics within the video. And this is going to be a great tour of the city of Longmont's RNG facility. So yeah, so first off, I'll stop here actually. So what are we looking at here? What is this entire, where are we at least? Where's this bird's eye view, John?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else is having trouble seeing the video. I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either, Diego. We just your
let's do this. Can you guys see the video now?
Here we go.
Good to go. Awesome. Sorry about that. Screen shared on the other one. Let's do this one.
Yeah, so if you want to hit the pause button here, I can give you a quick run through of what we're looking at. In the background, and unfortunately, I don't know if you can slide your cursor over at Diego, but there's a big tank right just down right there. Go down a little bit. That's right there. That tank right there is our anaerobic digester doing the bulk of the work of creating the biogas. And you can see there's a couple of pipes coming off of the top there that are conveying that biogas over to our biogas treatment system, which you see there in the foreground. It's the that white box, that white container looking thing, as well as the big treatment vessel there to the right. And so I can really quickly walk you through the general process of how people have kind of conventionally treated biogas. And biogas first enters into that tall vessel. It's filled with an iron hydroxide media. And so hydrogen sulfides in the biogas react with the iron hydroxide. The hydrogen sulfide is oxidized, and so that hydrogen sulfide is removed. So we have about 3,000 parts per million of H2S in our biogas. So it's anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000, but we can get it up to as high as 3,000. And this media will treat it down to below 5 parts per million. So that's really the first step. That H2S is really corrosive, and so you need to knock that out pretty quickly. In the white box, there is a number of different treatment components. One being temperature adjustment, so it cools the gas down, and that actually allows a lot of condensation, a lot of moisture in the biogas to drop out, and reduces that moisture. There's membranes that strip out CO2. So the biogas coming into that treatment vessel is something like 60% methane, 40% CO2. There's little to no oxygen at all, but maybe some nitrogen in there. But for the most part, methane and CO2. So those membranes strip out the CO2. And then there's a carbon vessels that strip out volatile organic compounds, but the more important one is strips out siloxanes. So siloxanes are silica that actually makes its way in our wastewater through personal care products, shampoos, different things like that. But when that silica, those siloxanes are combusted in an engine, for example, our vehicles, you can get this hard powdery residue that builds up and reduces heat transfer and really can mess up engines pretty bad. So that's really the overview of what we're looking at there. It is two different pieces of significant equipment. And in the background, there's some other smaller ancillary equipment like a chiller and a control panel. But that's the majority and the bulk of the treatment process there.
That's fascinating. Like I said, I would love an experiential tour eventually. Whenever COVID is not the issue, we would love an invitation. I'll invite myself to see this in action in person. That is so cool. Excellent. And John, Cory, anything else to add as far as the site visit? What kinds of things that you saw before this was even constructed? What was in your mind when you guys first got to the site?
I think one of the bigger things that we saw when we went to the site was location of where this equipment was going to go. We had looked at a few different locations within the facility, obviously taking into consideration where it was in proximity to the digester for the least amount of travel for the gas. That we had everything available with power demand, with a drain for condensation that's collected, and then accessibility for maintenance on it as well. They are a little bit maintenance intensive, not with the unit itself, but with, as John mentioned, their high levels of H2S in their gas. They take media changeouts on kind of a regular basis. So we had to make sure we had access to the facility and could get around everything for maintenance operations.
That's really key, isn't it? It's not just about you using it, but just like you said, those two main things: how close is it to the digester, and then how easy is it to maintain? Those are really big key factors before getting into really this type of project. So that's great that you guys are already thinking of that. We have maybe some best practices for fleets that are coming in. So that's great to hear. We'll continue on in the video.
So if you want to press pause here, Diego, you can do that. So we're kind of flying over, which is pretty interesting. Diego, I don't know if you can orient yourself, but the biogas treatment equipment is up on the kind of towards the top there. You can see the digester right there. Yep, and then the white box is that small. I don't know if you can move your mouse down and to the left a little bit.
Right here.
That's where we were initially. So we have a renewable natural gas pipe. After it's compressed in that white box up to about 130 psi, the gas travels across our site. So underground or on the south side of that big tank right there, just to the right. So it'll the gas pipe travels, just to the right of that tank around it, and continues kind of towards us where the camera is. And you're going to see a flip angle pretty shortly in the video. And so this is what we kind of call our wastewater treatment plant fence line. And the drone right now is flying kind of over that fence line over into kind of our operations and maintenance area. And that's where you'll see the new building. So you can.
Fantastic. And is this like an entrance for an actual fleet to enter, or I'm assuming that they have maybe an entrance here, but yeah, how can is just really accessible for a fleet to enter and leave?
Oh yeah, sorry. So this is still the wastewater treatment plant side. You see a flip angle, so it's actually gonna I think flip into the opposite direction, and then that's going to be the new building. So this is still the wastewater treatment plant side. Oh, maybe CGRS used the. Oh, there we go. So now we're flipping the angle here. So we're leaving the wastewater treatment plant fence line. That's behind us now, and so that is the new facility right there. Yep, which is the new building that CGRS constructed for us. And we'll continue to fly there. Cory, I'm happy to let you kind of take over the narrating from here.
Okay. It's right there, just to the left of the refuse trucks. You can start seeing all of the CNG equipment. And as John had mentioned, that RNG pipeline that comes from the wastewater treatment plant, we're basically flying, the drone is flying right over the top of it right now, and it goes back to the back side of the CNG equipment. You can keep going, Diego.
Cool. Excellent.
That's the high pressure storage that we're looking at there. And if you want to pause. And then on the back side of that high pressure storage, we also have a low pressure buffer storage. So the wastewater treatment plant doesn't produce, it produces a fairly low flow of renewable natural gas, enough so that we had to take into consideration the amount of flows and what we could do with that gas so that the city could utilize as much renewable natural gas as possible. This system is a redundant system, meaning we also have the capability of utilizing pipeline gas because the trucks can't miss a rollout. We always have to have trash pickup. And if something were to happen on the renewable natural gas side, we've got to still be able to fill the trash trucks so that they can go out and pick up waste every day. So we wanted to make sure that we had storage to utilize as much of the renewable natural gas as possible, because we have to put more gas into the trucks in a shorter amount of time than is produced from the wastewater treatment plant. And we overcame that by storing around 100,000 cubic feet of renewable natural gas in the high pressure storage vessels that you see there to the top right of the screen. Once that gas is stored, we go into the building, into the time fill stations that are inside of the building, and we have the capability of pulling that storage, that high pressure storage, down to around 300 psi. We utilize around 90% of the high pressure storage that is available. And on a typical CNG facility, anybody that's familiar with compressed natural gas, you don't pump it typically into the trucks when you're using the storage. You actually only can equalize that gas that's going from storage into the trucks. This site utilizes a decant panel, which allows us, again, to pull that natural gas down, or that renewable natural gas down, to about 300 psi, so we use as much as possible. You can keep going, Diego, if you'd like. So pause it right there. There are two different compressors there. There's a low flow compressor, gas gathering compressor, if you will, which is the gray box that's right in front of you there. And that is a lower flow. It only moves about 75 cubic feet per minute. So that allows us to take the gas as it's produced from the wastewater treatment plant and then put it into storage. And then when there's a demand for vehicle fueling, the white box that's right next to it actually has a much larger compressor in it, so that we can move gas quickly to fill a vehicle, to essentially simulate filling with diesel fuel. It's just as fast if they want to do it on a fast fill dispenser, or in this case, their refuse trucks are filled overnight. So every day when they come back in, they're full.
Fantastic. And I'm sure for, smaller fleets, larger fleets, just like you were saying, the needs of the fleets might dictate a different type of strategy. But I'm glad that, this looks like it's really going to work well for the city of Longmont. Good shot. So, and I'll stop here. John, or Cory, was there any retrofitting needing to be done to maintain the facility, or to your other facilities? Or was there anything else that was needing to be constructed? And then also for maybe the city of Boulder, Cory, are there retrofits that need to be thought of if they already, let's say, for instance, having natural gas on site?
So this, I can talk a little bit to this, and then John can add to it as he would like. This facility was very unique in that we built this facility ground up. So there was nothing on this site at all. So we didn't really have any retrofits. However, as you can see right in front of you in the center of the screen, that is a time fill hose station that will allow for 2 trucks to hook up to that one island. It is internal to this building. So the entire fleet side or parking structure of this building, the bays, is Class 1 Division 2 because it's all filled, all the trucks are filled indoors. So it was very unique. There was not any retrofitting here. It was reasonable for the city, and we thought building a new facility to be able to do this. John, you can add to that if you would like.
Yeah, so Diego, I think what you're kind of asking is like, what do fleets or utilities need to consider either in transitioning to CNG or using RNG? And if utility that's currently, like for us, we actually didn't have any CNG vehicles, right? So this facility was ground up, but one of those considerations is like, if you're moving to a CNG fleet as part of this whole process, do you have a CNG fleet compatible, a fleet maintenance building compatible for CNG maintenance? And so sometimes those facility upgrades or retrofitting can be a little bit costly, and is definitely one of those things as a facility. If you're moving from just traditional fossil fuels into a CNG, you want to be able to consider that. How are you able to maintain CNG vehicles in your current facilities? But you know, as Cory was alluding to here, we were working with our waste services group who were used to housing their vehicles inside, and we wanted to pursue a time fill type system. That did a couple things for us. It reduced the compressor sizing so that when we had all the trucks showing up at the end of the day, they all didn't have to fill up at the same time and cause a massive demand on the storage tanks or on the compressors. So because this is time fill, all the guys roll up at the end of the day, they plug in, and we fill up overnight. But if we wanted to do it indoors, that does create a little bit of a complexity. So this facility, again, very unique since it's an indoor fueling system, has to consider HVAC needs, so constant kind of ventilation of the space to make sure there's no methane in the air. We also have methane detection systems, fire suppression systems, and the electrical inside the building. When Cory says Class 1 Div 2, that just means that the electrical is all kind of self-contained in the piping, so any spark or anything is contained inside and wouldn't spark out into the space and create a hazard. So there are definitely some considerations to this. This is unique, and what I typically like to tell people is that this is not necessarily what's needed, but was something that was important for our utility. But you know, if you're looking to go to a CNG and you don't have CNG, you can do something much more simplistic from a fueling side. That would be a lot less costly. But that goes back to, I think, Cory's original statement, which is, you know, some of these things are utility specific, and you have to understand what the unique needs are of your facility to find the right solution.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. This is an investment. This is a long-term investment. So the people need to think about that. Absolutely. So that's fantastic. That these meet your needs, and you guys went a little bit above and beyond, and indoors, especially for our climate, is a lot better. So that's fantastic. It's a good shot.
Yeah,
so actually, really critical. How many vehicles do you have? How many CNG vehicles do you have?
So we currently have 11 refuse, that's trash, recycle, compost collection vehicles. And so we have, we've internally kind of set as a 7-year life cycle of our refuse trucks. And 11 of these trucks were up for replacement when we started kind of the feasibility side of this type of project. And we said, hey, let's pump the brakes on replacing all of those with diesel trucks again. we're considering potentially using a renewable natural gas or creating that, and that could be used for a CNG vehicle. So they withheld the replacement of those vehicles, and so we moved forward with this project, and they replaced 11 of those 11 of those diesel trucks with CNG. So the full build out for the waste services is about 19 trucks. So we anticipate in the next 2 to 3 years replacing another 4 or 5 refuse trucks with CNG, and then after that, I think in the next two years following that, it would pretty much complete the fleet. But at this point, while we still have we don't really rotate in diesel, so that's the operating strategy for our waste services group. They will use all the CNG trucks and really just use the diesels as backup. So that kind of increases our renewable natural gas consumption.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, to see a plan for your vehicles is great to see. That's fantastic, and I'm hoping for more vehicles. Again, thank you, CGRS, for this great video. You guys did amazing. We'll go ahead. We'll just go ahead and stop right here. I know that I asked several questions, and we'll go ahead and open it out for the next 15 minutes to the rest of the attendees. You know, what kinds of questions did you all have? You know, for Cory, for John, about their experience and about their RNG project. And I did see here Tracy and Gus from Fort Collins and from City of Loveland. Thank you so much for joining us. I see that you guys did join.
Hey, John, this is Tracy, City of Fort Collins. How you doing? When you guys first started talking about this, where did you kind of go to try to uncover some grants, and what was that process like? Because you know, our wastewater treatment plant, while they're interested in this, they're maybe more interested in cogen stuff, and so that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I'd like to pursue this a little bit more, but I'm just not sure where to really start with the funding process.
Yeah, great question, Tracy. And so you're talking about maybe funding or incentives for the wastewater side, right? Not necessarily the CNG or the fleet side.
Yeah, because that would be correct, because then, I mean, the CNG side, well, I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking the entire project, the digesters and the CNGs, compressors, storage, the whole operation, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good question, Tracy. And I'm not really aware of any federal grants related to some of this work. I'm not saying that that's not an option or it's not there. I'm just not aware of them. We were able to get $1 million grant through DOLA. They have something called the Energy Mineral Impact Assistance Fund Grant. Really a mouthful. EIAF is their acronym. But that's more of a competitive type of grant. So you're competing with a lot of smaller communities too that are maybe disadvantaged because of energy impacts, right? That's kind of the idea behind it. But they do like to see renewable type projects, especially as it relates to kind of fuel and fossil fuels. So we were able to compete for that grant, but I do want to make sure, people are a bit aware of a new grant that they released last year. And I think they're maybe either opening up a cycle either right now at the start of September or maybe at the start of October. And I can provide maybe a link to it in the chat, but it's their Renewable and Clean Energy Challenge grant. And so the last grant cycle, they awarded, I think, up to like $1 million to certain facilities for renewable type projects. And Grand Junction was awarded, I think, $500,000 for a biogas upgrading. So they are also, Grand Junction's also a facility that does this renewable natural gas in fueling trucks directly. So they needed some more storage, and so they were able to get a grant through that through that agency. So I'll provide a link to that in the chat, Tracy.
That's excellent. That was a great question. Great answer too.
Thank you. One follow-up question, John. Have you guys capitalized on any of the Alt Fuels Colorado money now that you are using renewable natural gas that makes you eligible now for those vehicle upfits? Have you been able to capitalize on that yet?
Yeah, we've not leveraged that yet. We actually fell when we were first doing the project. There was no renewable natural gas component to that grant. So we got a grant through Regional Air Quality Council for the upgrade of diesel trucks to CNG, and they paid that cost difference between a CNG and a diesel vehicle. But we've not put in any requests yet. So when that next, like I was saying, I think in 2 years, when we have that next truck replacement cycle, we'll definitely be looking to get some money from the grant agency for that. But we are considering applying for that same renewable and clean energy grant to kind of expand the system. So as you saw in that video, really that whole system is geared towards fueling our waste services fleet. But we want to create kind of a citywide fleet filling area. So I think that's going to be one of the grants that we look to apply to maybe expand our fueling over to something that's a little bit more public. And then we would definitely be looking, like you're saying, Tracy, to look at other types of fleet vehicles that could be upgraded to kind of the renewable natural gas CNG fueling type.
And just a shameless plug, Northern Colorado Clean Cities helps fleets for free. Apply for Alt Fuels Colorado. We have some successful applications, at least for the electric side. We're going to be starting on the RNG side very soon. It's very new, but we can help you for free with grant application stuff, analysis for that grant application. So shameless plug there. It's 110% of the incremental cost. So it's a really great program in Colorado. Any other questions? Those were great questions about incentives. Yeah. Any other questions from the panelists or from the audience?
I actually had a question back to Tracy. So when you said your wastewater utility is interested in electrification or cogen versus renewable natural gas, are they actively taking steps to purchase cogen equipment, or are they in a planning phase and you're trying to help them maybe identify some incentives along the lines of RNG to swing that?
No, they're actively working on that project right now. I'm not 100% sure exactly where they're at right now, but that project should be completed in the next year or two. But I just selfishly from the fleet side, I would like to run this way, but there might be enough biogas available to satisfy both needs. And then in the meantime, we're just looking to purchase renewable natural gas from the RIN side of things, I guess you might say.
Very interesting.
Hey, Cory, what was the most challenging piece of that project for you guys?
I would say that it was the design to meet the needs of the city, to make sure that they were able to utilize as much of the RNG as possible. I think that was one of their biggest requests, is they wanted to not use pipeline gas if at all possible. So it took a lot of design, a lot of roundtable discussions to come up with a system that would meet the needs that they were expecting, and then, you know, be able to perform the way they were expecting as well. Yeah, I think one of the other things that we really that took a lot of work as well was working with the AHJ, with the fire district, working with the city, explaining what we were doing, you know, telling that, working back and forth with the fire district and the comments and stuff, because we did the indoor fueling there. It doesn't necessarily apply to every single one of these projects, but that was definitely a consideration as well.
Right. Okay. Well, kudos to everybody. I mean, these are very complicated projects. I know, John, you said that it can be simple, but you know, in some ways, sort of uncharted territory for our area here. And you guys really stepped up and looked like you did a fantastic project here. So,
yeah, thanks, Tracy. And I don't want to minimize the complexity of the actual system itself. CGRS definitely worked really hard with us to I think meet some of our challenging needs, and so the design and the construction were very yeah, it took a great team to be able to accomplish that. And I'm more than happy to talk about the RIN side of things. I think there are some myths and that side of the program, I think, can look more challenging than it is. But yeah, thanks, Tracy. I appreciate that comment. It's definitely I think a pat on the back to CGRS and to some extent some of our city folks as well, for getting this project pushed through.
Absolutely.
I do have a question, Diego.
Absolutely. Excellent.
Kelly Serrano with CGRS. But I'm stepping out of that role and playing reporter. And so the question is for John, that I think might be good for jurisdictions looking to, you know, they're investigating whether to branch out into RNG. How did you as a city determine the best contractors for a job like that, given that this is new territory for a lot of Colorado jurisdictions? What did you look for, especially on the expertise, the knowledge and ability to build a project like this? And Cory might be able to answer too, as far as what you should be looking for as well. But I'm gonna let John start.
Yeah, great. I mean, we chose to go along with a design build project delivery method, which meant that the contractor and the designer were going to work together from the beginning and work to design the system to 60%, and then provide the city with what's called a guaranteed maximum price, a GMP, for finishing the design from 60% to 100% and constructing the system. So we felt like that was going to be a good approach because of the two different sides to the coin here, between both a biogas treatment system and a CNG system. We didn't want any fingers being pointed that the biogas side was going to be the problem or the CNG side was going to be the problem. Sometimes you can get into that if you've got two different engineers or an engineer and a contractor that aren't working together, there's problems. So we kind of wanted all of the onus to provide a full operating system that worked together, and we wanted that responsibility to lie on a team of designers and constructors. So we initially did a statement of qualifications, and to your point, Kelly, like, how do we find somebody that's qualified to do the work? We didn't immediately go out with a request for proposal because generally we, you know, if it's a competitive process like that, then a lot of times lower bids come back as the award, and that may not be the most qualified team to do the work. So what we issued first was a statement of qualifications and vetted companies that have experience in this arena, and shortlisted the proposing teams. So that helped us. That was a tool we used, at least that statement of qualifications step, to receive qualifications from teams to and really only allow proposers who could do this type of work.
Good.
Cory, did you want to add anything as far as what municipalities and districts should look for in a qualified contractor?
No, I think John summed that up pretty good. I mean, having a team that knows how to do these systems or has done work on these systems, the CNG system especially, you're looking at two different disciplines when you do a system such as Longmont has, where you have the CNG component and the renewable natural gas component that's at a wastewater treatment plant. So you got to have the right people on board to do a design and construct that's going to work for you.
Well, fantastic. That is excellent. That was a great last question. It is 10:58, so I have taken officially an hour of each of y'all's times. Thank you so much for joining us. And any other additional questions? It doesn't look like we have. We might have one in the chat. Let me just see. Oh, okay, good. Thank you so much, John, for putting that in. Any other additional questions, send our way, and we can direct it to either Cory, John, or anybody at CGRS or Longmont. So thank you all again so much for joining us and having those great questions. I think it was a great tour, and a special thank you again to CGRS, Cory and Kelly for providing that great video, and the City of Longmont, John, for again taking that plunge and being a pioneer in this space. It is great to see. And this will be recorded and posted on our YouTube, so you'll be able to look at this back again if needed. But again, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Diego.
Thanks, Diego.
Take care.
Thanks,
Thank
all.
you for joining us.
Good job.